All right, so the next we're going to switch gears a little bit. This is more of a somber topic, and we talked about it a little bit last week with the terrible shootings in Atlanta, and we went a little bit. We talked a little bit more about like Asian racism towards the Asian diaspora, how a lot of like kind of imperialist narratives feed into it. But since we did that show last week, there has been another high-profile mass shooting in Boulder, and according to other sources, there's also been several others springing up across the country. And as we said, kind of sardonically at the top of the show, oh yeah, things are starting to get back to normal. And in the United States of America, fortunately, one of the things that means is people going out in public and shooting up a bunch of innocent people. So Lawrence, I
Yeah.
know you're really eager to talk
So
about this topic. I'm going to kind of toss it over to you.
fun facts. This is coming from the fun facts. This is coming from Vice News. You want to know something that happened 2 weeks before this the shooting that happened in Boulder, Colorado?
Hmm?
A county district court judge struck down the city's provision to ban assault weapons and high capacity magazines. So, giving context, in May of 2018, Boulder City, Colorado, voted unanimously to pass a ban and to pass the banning and selling of assault weapons and high capacity magazines. That was in May of 2018. County District Court Judge Andrew Hartzman ruled 2 weeks before the shooting that the city couldn't enforce that ban. Guess what weapon the killer used to kill those many people in Boulder, Colorado? He used an assault weapon that he wouldn't have been able to buy if the ban was still in effect.
Mm-hmm.
Now, look, I understand that Boulder, Colorado is not in a bubble. You know what I'm saying? We saw that with Kyle Rittenhouse. Obviously, you can go to another state, buy a weapon, drive to wherever you want to go, and start shooting up the place. Right? I
Unfortunately,
get that.
yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, right. But it would have made it that much harder for this nutcase to get a weapon if this ban was still in effect. It would have been harder for him to get a weapon in that city. So when we talk about comprehensive gun reform, we're talking about the banning of assault weapons and high capacity magazines. We're talking about um, having a waiting day period, just like the Charleston loophole. We're gonna have a waiting day period. I say that you need to have the same waiting day period that you would need for getting car insurance or anything else. You have to go through the same comprehensive training that you have to do for your driver's test for you getting your driver's license before you can get a gun. It should not be easier it should not be harder for me to go get cold medicine like Oxycontin and stuff. If I needed medicine, over the counter drugs, it shouldn't be harder for me to get that than to get a weapon in this country. But for some reason, we allow people who are mentally disturbed, and it's as easy as buying a bag of Skittles in this country. That
Um,
is that is the normal of America.
I do want to interject, and a lot of times when gun control comes up, me and Lawrence, we have somewhat different opinions on it. But I do want to point something out. So, I think there have been some valid, people bring up valid stuff about, uh, there's been a lot more, Black and Asian Americans over the last year have been buying firearms for self defense. There is a really important point that, no, you do not want to unilaterally disarm marginalized people. But I think this falls into kind of a similar trap that a lot of reactionary gun people do. And I think, leftist gun owners should not fall into the same trap where it's this all or nothing idea that like any gun control legislation literally means that they're going to come and take all of your firearms. And I think we need to understand like there are sensible things you can do in gun legislation that is going to maintain your right to bear arms and defend yourself. I myself, I own an assault rifle. I have an AK, but it is literally just for going to the range. And if a fascist comes to my domicile and wants to f around and find out, but yeah, but like I don't think we should not echo the bad faith talking points of like NRA and conservatives who like to scaremonger their base that any tiny little common sense, like sensible gun restriction or law is a threat to gun ownership overall. Like some of the things that you brought up, like making sure that enhanced rules, making sure people like who have a history of domestic violence, maybe people who've been affiliated with white supremacist organizations can't have firearms. That would sound sensible to me. So I think I want to like caveat, like, yes, I get it. I am one of those under no pretext people, but I think we should have a more nuanced conversation about guns than the reactionaries do, where every tiny little thing means that Joe Biden's going to sneak into your house and steal all your weapons. It's just
Well, I mean, okay. So there's two things. There's a couple things there there's a few things I would just want to respond to. And yeah, I'm not trying to be a reactionary and saying in the reactionary of no, man, you can't step on my rights. First of all, the Second Amendment says well-regulated militia. First of all, are you in a militia? No? Then shut up. Are you? Is it well regulated? Regulation. Regulated is the word. Regulation. That means we need to have laws and structure of how we get here. Like that's in the first sentence of the Second Amendment. So for me, it bothered me seeing these two mass shootings back to back and seeing the other ones that are going to be coming. I mean, man, we live in Kalamazoo. A mass shooting happened here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So I forgot, and I wrote about it because I wrote about it on my Facebook page. I forgot that was normal in America. I truly did, because the pandemic made everyone stay home. We socially distanced. There wasn't a lot of stories about mass shootings. Why? Because most people didn't go outside or wasn't participating or wasn't putting themselves in situations where this type of craziness happens. And now, since things are getting back to normal, that's normal for these type of stories to come up. So yeah, everybody's a responsible gun owner until they're not, until that day, right? Until they have a bad day. That was what the cop said about the dude in Atlanta. He had a bad day.
Like I said on the show last week, like that might work in comic books, but this is real life. Like
right,
the Joker son, but no, that's
right. No, it's not even that, bruh. Imagine if it was a black person that shot up a white church, or a black person that shot up a school, and the cop said he had a bad day. Like what? Can you imagine the Muslim person that shot up these 10 people, Tucker Carlson and the rest of the Republican right wing troglodytes saying he just had a bad day. My thing is this: when it comes to sensible legislation, so gun buyback programs, if we know that you had a history of domestic violence, or like the if you have a history of mental illness, if you are not able to pay your own bills, you are so mentally inept that you cannot function in society without assistance, you don't need a weapon. If if you've made if you've uh if what is the reason, again, like how you said, you have an AR, you have AR-15, you have an assault weapon. It's cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know that you use it to defend yourself. You go to the range, fine, whatever. I ain't got no problem with that. But that does not mean that we can't be sensible about where guns are allowed to be, where you can carry guns. If you're telling me that you need to be packing in Walmart, you need to be carrying a gun in Walmart. You need to be carrying a gun at a bar. You need to carry a gun at a library or at a school. If you're telling me that you feel that unsafe and that you need your weapon at places where a lot of people are going to congregate, then you don't need to have a gun.
You know, it's kind of like this cyclical argument too, because it's like, you know, you ask like one of these right wing people, is like, why would you need a gun to go to, like, you know, Walmart? And it's like, well, what if one of these mass shooters shows up? It's like, well, the mass shooter is showing up because he has access to all these guns. It's, you know, and
Like
it's like, you know, there's like, well, they'll find them anyway. You know, where there's a will, there's a way. And it's like, you got to keep in mind, many, like most of these mass shooters, like it has to do with some sort of mental break. It is as much a crime of opportunity as anything else. So the fact that they have such easy access to these arms is the main reason they're doing it. Like, you know, you're talking about, like, yes,
facts.
maybe like certain criminal organizations are still going to arm themselves, but like that is completely separate from like a mass shooting phenomenon, which is in most ways propelled by easy access to these armaments. You know, like,
We should not allow people who are on the terrorist watch. Like, again, I'm glad you said that. We shouldn't allow people who have. There shouldn't be this. It shouldn't be this easy to get weaponry like this. If you're telling me that we live in a society where you need to be packing heat at McDonald's or at at the library, at the park. You going to the park? You gonna go walk your dog at the park and you need to be packing heat? What are you doing in your life that makes you that scared? Maybe we need again, Republicans. What's the thing? Personal responsibility. Maybe you need to take some personal responsibility in your life to figure out why do you need a gun at the park.
you know, some of them might respond, you know, if they listen to a lot of like right wing propaganda. It's like, well, I need it for the antifas and like the anarchists and stuff who might break a window next to me, and then like, oh man, I'll wish I had a gun. Like, it's, you
Man,
know,
but here's the thing. Also let's keep it real. Let's also keep it real. Because OG, one of my OGs who also who collects weaponry. He's a hunter. He collects weaponry. He's like, most people, it's a power fantasy. They get weaponry because they feel powerless in their everyday lives. And when you have a power fantasy like that, you're going to want to use it. You're gonna want to use it. And where you're gonna use it, you're gonna use it on people who can't defend themselves. And also, just for we remember how the police officers reacted to Black Lives Matter, right? We remember how uh, police officers reacted to George Floyd, to Philando Castile, to Breonna Taylor, right? These are innocent people who uh, these were innocent people who did not do a crime that needed their lives to be taken. I just want to contrast that with the two mass shooters. The one in Atlanta that was taken in peacefully after he massacred uh, uh, Asian Americans, right? Or the other white mass shooter that's gonna come through, well, and he will be taken in without being harmed by the police. We just got done talking about how police earlier in the show talking about how they respond to progressive or black protesters, and then we just also talked about how they responded to the Capitol riots. Can we get the same treatment? Can we get the same treatment as these white mass shooters? Can we be taken in peacefully? That's all. That's all I want to ask. Police
Um,
officers, if you're doing that for these mass murders, can you do that for your regular civilians?
yeah, and last thing I would like to bring up is, as I often do when events like this occur, is that I think there is a mistake in thinking that gun control measures are some sort of, pardon the term, silver bullet when it comes to decreasing gun violence. A lot of it is predicated on the sort of kind of cultural rot that we have in this country. There are other places where many people are armed, but they do not go out and indiscriminately kill their neighbors. And this goes, and we have longer, deeper discussion about, like, the Marxist idea of alienation, and kind of what happens when you atomize everybody so that there effectively is no community. We stop seeing each other as human, et cetera, et cetera. But a big preventative measure, is like creating communities where people are included, and also looking out for people who might be led astray, people who are having this kind of ideation. Some people, it's harder to tell than others, but there is something to be said about people who engage in like violent fantasies, and they start isolating themselves. Some sort of like remediation with them can help. But on the macro level, a lot of this does boil down to like just really deep issues of cultural rot. America was never a great place, and it's certainly never perfect, but we've always had tons and tons of guns everywhere. And the phenomenon of mass shootings is something we've really seen gain steam in the last couple of decades. And it's kind of tracked with this kind of post-Cold War consensus around neoliberalism and hyper individualism that I think has done a lot to really just devastate our sense of communal bonds. It's kind of
Um,
it creates the terrain for this type of stuff to happen, and I think it's really important that we also like really think through that on a deeper level as well.
well, and again, this is where me and you are going to disagree. I am for New Zealand style or Australian style gun control. Like for me, I mean, the facts prove that yes, even Canada, whose second favorite sport after hockey is hunting. Think about that. Their second favorite sport after Canada, after hockey, is hunting. Yet they don't have as many gun uh, mass shootings as we do. I am more in favor for their style of gun control than what we have in this country on a national level.
All
That
right. Oh, sorry, Lawrence. I didn't mean to cut you off. Yeah.
No, go ahead. No, I'm done. I'm done.
Okay. Well, I think with that, unless was there anything else we wanted to dive into on this topic, or
Okay. So another thing. So and a few other things. So we have to go to uh the administration. The Mitch McConnell responded to the mass shootings. So did Kamala Harris and Biden. Um, their their responses to the mass shooting, in my opinion, were lackluster at best. it was lackluster at best. Um, Mitch McConnell obviously doesn't care because if you go to opensecrets.com, there's $10 billion that 10 billion, and yes, I'm saying billion with a B, it reasons why they our lawmakers do not care about us or mass shootings. It's because they're getting paid by weapons manufacturers and their lobbyists to not care about the subject. That's just what it is. For me, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, uh, uh, saying that, giving the response that yes, we should be caring about these subjects, but our administration is not going to be putting pressure on Joe Manchin or Kristen Sinema or some of the more conservative uh, Democrats to force something in the Senate. Like when I heard Kamala Harris said, or when I heard Joe Biden said, I hope that these lawmakers, I hope some of these people in the Senate hear me and that we need to act now. I kept thinking in my head, you're the president. You can make them. That's your entire job. You are the leader of the party right now. Why aren't you making them listen to you about passing comprehensive gun reform? Am I missing something? Like, am I truly lost, or does he not have the power to make Kristen Sinema or to apply pressure to Joe Manchin and others to do comprehensive gun reform?
No, you're absolutely right. I think we've had some discussions on earlier episodes. I've cited the historical example LBJ or any other faults, like a lot of his Great Society programs. There's like famous historical anecdotes of him just shouting at people in his party. He's like, "You're gonna do this. You're gonna do it." Like, there's some sometimes bullying can be a good thing if you're bullying
So,
senators into like helping working people. But
yeah, I
yeah.
mean, yeah, but it's helping to save lives is always a good thing. Work on saving lives. I'm pretty sure you're not going to bring anybody back from Charleston or from Atlanta or from Boulder, but you can at least make sure that more children from those locations don't die from gunfire. I mean, that's simple. And also, yeah, Mitch McConnell, the turtle claiming that this is a power grab, that this is what the Democrats always wanted to take away our rights or to infringe on our rights about the Second Amendment and things of that nature. Let me remind you, these are the same things that they said about President Obama and President Obama's administration, that he was coming for people's guns, and he didn't do it. Not once. Remember, Sandy Hook happened under President Obama's watch. Wasn't there a congressperson who also got shot during President Obama's administration? Didn't that
Uh,
also happen?
yeah. I can't remember their name, but I remember what you're talking about. A sniper.
Okay, I think it was Griffin, something Griffin, or
Yeah.
whatever her name was. Congress people, legislators, children were shot and killed. And what we got from our lawmakers, the left and right on our spectrum, is thoughts and prayers, because Wayne LaPierre, NRA, even though NRA is going bankrupt, things of that nature, the stock prices for Smith and Wesson and for other gun manufacturers went up during the pandemic because people kept buying guns because they were scared. Like, let's not fall for the okey doke, folks. Like, nah, man, I'm perturbed, I'm upset, I am disturbed, I am furious in many ways about going back to the old normal when this is the old normal.
All right. So Lawrence, I think let's cap it off there and let's do a quick break. We come back. We've got a few more really important stories to talk about. Y'all listening to the Hood Rat Strategist radio program only on 89.1 WIDR or online at widerfm.org. Also want to let you know you can see our full episodes on Facebook, our Facebook page, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We chop down our show into individual clips so you can see just kind of bite-sized versions. You can share those out with folks. But yeah, keep your dial locked. Y'all listen to the Hood Rat Strategist radio program, your only source for political revolution.
Okay, sorry.
Y'all are listening to the Hood Rat Strategist radio program only on 89.1 WIDR or online at widerfm.org. Lawrence, I remember you had a quick addendum to the next one, and then I'm gonna
Yeah. So while during the break, I went on opensecrets.org and looked it up. It's not 10 billion, it's 10 million. 10 million reasons why to block legislation on issues like gun control. It's because a lot of our politicians are being paid off to do so, and 10 million in 10 different million ways. Like, it's multiple legislators like Josh Hawley, Mitch McConnell, Marco Rubio, and others are paid off to with blood money. Basically, that's what that is. To look the other way.
Oh man. All right. So this next